Hello guys, thanks for tuning into the channel today. Today I'm going to cover unit number 27, which is prune pickers, is what the locals call it. At least that's all I've ever heard it called, is prune pickers. I don't know it under any other name, but that is pit number 27. Before I get into there, to the video, if you guys seen the pop-ups before the video of the big hammer ringer worm and the 2K Jigs little punk. You'll see down in the description, there'll be a link going to the where to buy them. You can buy the big hammer ringer worm at Tackle Warehouse. You can buy the 2K Jigs little punk. I got a link going to their website there. Also use discount code SNOW10, and that'll save you 10% on your entire order with that. So let's get into the video here. Before I get into it, if you guys would just go down to the bottom left-hand corner of the screen here and like the video. And also, if you have not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. We've had a very big increase in viewers and subscribers here over the past couple of weeks with the content I have been putting out. So that is great to see that feedback. It's great. Also, if you guys like the stuff, comment on it. You got any questions, comments, that helps get the views up there, helps get the channel out there to more people that are looking for more information. So that's awesome. I'm getting this information out to you guys, and you guys are enjoying that. Okay, so let's jump into this here. There's a lot of stuff to cover in prune pickers. I didn't realize there was so much stuff to cover until I started digging into it. Then I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is, like, I didn't realize I've caught fish in so many places here and didn't realize there's so much to prune pickers. Okay, so the water clarity to get started off with is clear. It's about 10-foot clarity or so. Not really crystal clear, but it can be. It ain't really got no stain to it, but it's clear. Lots of grass. That's a good thing. Lots of grass means lots of healthy fish. I've never caught really a unhealthy looking fish out of that pit. They're very healthy. Lots of shad in there, so real good. The colors I like to throw in there is plum and blue fleck. Magic bug, if you're throwing the big hammer ringer worm, magic bug works good. Watermelon red works good. That also works good in the plum and blue fleck. They work good in 10-inch worms in the summertime there. They work good in a 7-inch power worm. Like I said, I used to throw the 7-inch power worm a lot. If you watch my videos, kind of switched over now to the big hammer ringer worm. I do throw the 7-inch worm. I mix them back and forth, but the big hammer ringer worm still seems to dominate that 7-inch power worm bite for some reason now. I don't know, maybe the fish got used to that and they like the big hammer ringer worm. I'm not sure. It just got more bites for me the past couple of years doing that. Won me a couple bass tournaments as well. And then June bug and candy bug work well as well in there. They work better in the stick worms in there. Well, not stick worms, but stick flat tail baits, more like your Zoom finesse worms, Zoom trick worms. And jig color wise, I like a blue crab in the 2K Jigs, little punk, and the wrecking ball. And then I also like PB&J stripe is what it's called in the little punk and the wrecking ball. They are the blue crab. What it is it is a watermelon with blue in it. It works really good in stained water, really good in clean water. It works good just everywhere in the pits. PB&J, if you guys don't know what that is peanut butter jelly. That is a purple and a brownish color. And that's good in clearer water just about everywhere. And then your jerk baits and chatterbaits, you want to go with shad colors. And there is bigger shad in prune pickers. So that is where the jerk bait really comes in the wintertime. It works really good. Just stick to your shad colors in that. If you're throwing a Vision 110, that's one I do prefer, is a Megabass Vision 110. Throw it in a Pro Blue or a Pro Blue 2. You can throw a Vision 110 plus 2 because it gets deeper in there, and they're down a little deeper, or even a plus 2 in there because they do get deeper in prune pickers. And then also a Berkeley Stunna works really good, and that color is called Shad Fillet. It's got a little bit of chartreuse in it, but they still eat it good in the wintertime, even in the clear pits. And then a chatterbait, you just want to stick to a shad color, a silverish color or a whitish color. Works good on that. It depends on how you're working that chatterbait. I mean, if you're working it like a crawled fish on the bottom, your fire crawls will work in there, or anything natural. I would stick to the shad colors though, because they eat a lot of shad in there. Now the first area I want to talk about is the area just to the south of the boat ramp right there. So you could put in, if you put a bass boat in, you got to put in down the boat ramp right there. But if you go just to the south, if you got a scamp or a John boat or a kayak, you can put it just to the south in the shallower area over there. I want to break down this area right there to start off with. The red is deeper areas. Those areas are better in the early spring. The fish like to stage right there, and it's really before the grass is really grown in real thick, because that grass grows in real thick in that area right there. And those fish like to stage in there in that deeper water to move up to spawn. It's a good transition area. When I say transition area, that is fish transitioning up to spawn. They're in pre-spawn, and they're transitioning. They're feeding up. They're eating. So this is the time of year when they are the fattest, they are the fullest, they're eating just, not everything, but they're filling up to move up there and spawn. So this is a great time to catch your biggest fish of the year and get the biggest fish. This is a great time to fish prune pickers. I'll get into that. You'll see all of it once I start breaking it all down here. This pit just has so much going on. You can do just about anything in there. So they hold out in this deeper water in water temps of 50 to 60 degrees. And then once it gets over about the 60-degree mark, that is when the blue, you'll see the blue right there in this photo, that's the flats right there. And then the green is the bass. They'll pull up on these flats and they'll spawn on those flats. And then they start spawning about 58 to 70 degrees is right in the temperatures where the bass will spawn. Or you'll have you'll have a couple of them that spawn. And they like to spawn in the full moons is what they say, full moon and new moon. Full moon, a lot of them move up to spawn, but they spawn 58 to 70 degrees right there in the springtime. So that's a great area to catch bass. Prune pickers altogether is a great area to catch bass. Now for that area in there, if you're fishing in the colder water, I would be throwing a jig. I would throw a wrecking ball in the colder water there for those fish coming up to spawn. They like to eat crawfish to fill up because it's more, I don't know why they like to eat the crawfish in the winter, but they do. I think it's better for them when they move up to spawn. It holds up longer than the shad does in them. Okay, so now let's get into the second area. This is to the ramp and then back to the west, or east, sorry. Back to the east and then just kind of a little cut to the north. The blue right out in front of the ramp is kind of like a little island right there and a little flat. And the grass likes to grow up in there. And I don't think I've ever been in prune pickers and not caught a fish there. You can even fish it from the boat ramp. I think you might be able to reach it from the boat ramp. I know you can walk around and kind of get right up there close to it. I'm pretty sure by land. Fish that right there. You'll get a fish off of it. Never caught a big one, but I always caught a fish there. The green right there, those areas are good. Like I said, they like to move up there and spawn in them. And then the red bank, I've done good on that right there. That bank on the south where the red is, I've done good right there with a shaky head in the summertime, and also a popper I've done good with. The islands, they are good. They're good with the topwater in the summertime. They're good with topwaters I've done good with a popper. I've done good with a big hammer buzz hammer in there with a 4-inch swim bait on it, a big hammer swim bait on there. I've done good with shaky heads out there. I've done good with a split shot out there. So let's turn the page here. We'll get to the third area and start breaking it down. This is the South Cove, just outside of that flat that we was looking at. So you come outside of that flat, and you'll see the green areas there are good, like I said, in the spring, the 58 to 70 degrees when those bass move up to spawn. Then if you look outside of those areas, the blue right there is good in the early spring because that's your transition areas. That 50 to 60 degree range right there in the springtime is when they're feeding up, like I said. That's the areas where you want to throw your jig, and they'll even still eat a jerkbait then. So that's where you want to look right there that time of year. And like I said, throw that jig. Be sure to throw that jig because they're going to eat that jig real good that time of year. Now the red is good in the summer, like I said, with the topwaters. The shaky head, I have never done real good for some reason, really honest. On a Texas rig in prune pickers. I have caught them, but just not real good in there with the Texas rig. Done better with jigs in there. I've done better with shaky heads in there and a split shot. A split shot works really good too. Just put like an 1/8 ounce split shot. Put it about a foot or two, maybe a foot, about 18 inches, right up on your line there. Just weightless, except your split shot up here. you know, like a finesse worm, either a trick worm or a finesse worm. Zoom finesse worm works good. Also, the big hammer salt shaker worm works really good on that as well. Okay, so let's get into the purple. Those laydowns right there. I watched a 20-incher get caught in an MLF right out of that laydown. And I caught 2 or 3 bass out of there myself. That guy caught 2 or 3 bass besides that one out of there. Flipped those laydowns. He actually caught that. And I caught mine on a 2K Jigs little punk out of that tree too. So that right there, and that was in a blue crab color. And on that, I like to throw, I will throw, it's a missile D-bomb on the back of that. It's in either watermelon red, or I can't remember that, copper crawl, I believe. I might be wrong on that. Might be the color. It's like a bluish color. I might think I'm wrong on that color. But I know the watermelon red works good as a trailer on that. So where are we at here? Sorry, I'm reading my notes. Yeah, the purple was the laydowns. We covered those. Be sure to hit those, because like I said, I've seen the 20-inch or 4-pounder get caught off of those as well. And there's always fish up in them in the summertime, springtime, fall time. Hit those. The winter. Okay, so let's look at the white. What that white is, that is ditches. They sit in these areas in the winter when it's the coldest, and the winter when it's or the summer when it's the warmest. So this is where you're going to throw your jerk bait, your swim bait, or chatter bait. And wind helps that bite. What you're going to look for to tell you that those fish are out there is look for birds. If you see birds, I don't know the exact name of the birds, but they swim under the water. If you see like a duck-looking bird out there and it goes under the water, they're eating those shad, and that'll tell you that there is shad under there. If you don't have a fish finder and can't see those shad, just look for those birds. And wherever those birds are going under the water, they're eating those shad, and there will be bass around wherever those shad are. So pay attention to the birds. Pay attention to anything busting, because those shad will bust, and that tells you there's shad out there. It tells you they're out there in those ditches. Now the fourth area is the far southeast cove. So let's look down in there. The green areas are good for the spawning, the 58 to 70 degrees. Those green areas right in there is good. And before I get too far there, I want to go back to that. It's a south bank, and it's about 3/4 the way down, not all the way back into the east, but almost about 3/4 the way past that bigger cove to the north right there. I won a pit tournament years ago. My father-in-law caught 4-something, 410, 411, 412, something like that. It was somewhere around there. It was a good one. And that was on a 2K Jigs Freak is what it was called. That's also a great jig to throw when they're up on beds or feeding up, coming up to the beds. Or when they're coming off, it's a great jig to throw too. I like to throw, what is that? Innovations, no, it's not a reaction. It's a Strike King Rodent, I believe it is, or a Sweet Beaver, that's it. Right, I knew it was getting there. Reaction Innovation Sweet Beaver, I can't remember the color I throw in that. And I can't remember the name of that freak exactly off the top of my head. I don't think he even makes that freak color anymore. But if you can get it in a couple different colors. I don't know exact colors on that. Like I said, that was years ago when he caught that. I don't use the freak too much no more. I need to get back to using that. But a jig works good. That's a good bank right there on that south. So the purple there is a beaver pile. Never caught a big one there, but it always holds fish right there. Those little purple dots are. Going right in there, that's a great area. You can fish that brush pile and catch a few fish every single time you are in there. For that beaver pile, throw a jig, throw a shaky head, throw that split shot in there. You're going to catch fish if you do that with those 3 baits. Now the green towards the west, like I said, the jig, I made sure to already cover that. The early spring and spawn, I just covered that. That's why I talked about the freak. You could throw any jig you like. Like I said, I prefer that freak or wrecking ball. Or even the little punk works good with that grass coming in like that. The freak works good if you get it in the grass and then you pop it out of that grass. You kind of rip it out of the grass, kind of like you would a rattle trap or a chatterbait. And then the blue and the white there are good winter areas. That is areas where the bass are staging. The blue is more, like I said, the pre-spawn. And then the white is more the winter. That's your ditches out there. Look for the birds. The birds will tell you where those fish are. And they'll sit outside of those spawning areas right there, and you'll be able to catch them. Basically, it'll create a funnel. If you guys watch my videos, you've learned about that. I need to do a video just on that, on exactly where to look on how that funnels and the wind funnels, all that stuff in there. And then the red, those points are good in the summer. The banks with the red are good in the summer with the shaky head, the top waters, and the split shots. So just stick to those lures and you'll catch fish in that pit. I believe, yeah, that's the 4th area there. So now let's get to the last area there. This video ain't taking me as long as what I thought, but there's just so much to break down in prune pickers. Got so many fish in there, it's hard to really just dial in on one thing. Now the 5th area is the cove that runs all the way to the east. There's a lot going on here in this cove that goes to the east. The green is good areas in the spring and the spawn. And there's a bunch of backwater, especially if the water's up. The south, pretty much even the water's down, you can get into those. But the ones up to the north, you can't really get into those unless the water's up. But usually in the springtime, the water is up. So usually they're accessible and you can get into those. And you want to hit these areas because this is where the bass are spawning at. And they're hidden back there. That's where you want to look for spawning areas too, is kind of out of the wind. Things that's hidden out of the wind, they're sitting in the back. So look in there, and where the little dots are, that's back there where the bass are going to bed. And don't get me wrong, they'll sit there all year round too. Even in the summertime, these fish will be sitting back in there. Go back there in the mornings, they'll be back there feeding. Even in the wintertime, I've never caught them in a bigger pit really back that shallow, but I'm going to cover some finger pits later on in some of my episodes, and you guys will see some of those and how you fish those littler finger pits. So. And they're good in the summer, though, good in the fall. Usually the fall's too low because the water gets low and you can't really get back into those. And then the red are good spots all year round. I've done better on them in the summer, like I said, with the shaky heads, the split shots. And if you're fishing up on those beds, like I said, you want a lighter weight Texas rig. You want your crawl styles. You want your bluegill imitations, which is any colors, brush hogs, baby brush hogs. You want something that's just going to irritate the bass. A jig's really too heavy for a bed. I've never done real good throwing jigs on beds. They're just too bulky, too big. You want something even smaller. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if I mentioned, I had to redo this video, so I don't know if I mentioned that. You want to throw, if you're fishing for spawning bass, you want to throw something that gets up in their face. I've noticed that. So either on the bottom with a Texas rig that's real light fall, or like a split shot or a drop shot works really good on the bed. A drop shot with like a little worm, little 4-inch worm, get up there. Salt shaker worm works real good on that drop shot. Get up in there, just irritate that bass. Just get up there and make it eat it. Or you can get it on the bed, and when it's irritating and looking down, they'll try to pick it up and move it off that bed. So you got to be quick with it too. You miss a lot of bass when they're on them beds too. And then the purple area, there's a tree there laying in the water. And that's a good tree. I don't know if I've ever caught anything there, but I love the looks of it. So be sure to hit that tree. And then the blue, as like I said, is good late winter, pre-spawn, bass transitioning up to spawn areas. Focus on those with a jerkbait and a jig, and you should catch good fish this time of year. This is your best time of year to catch those big fish, is that pre-spawn transition time. Now the white, like I said, is the ditch. That is good in your coldest water and good in your warmest water. So there's fish there all year round, but it's better in the coldest water and better in the summer. Like I said, once again, pay attention if you're doing that out there in the middle of the pit. Pay attention to the birds. And if you do see that out there, that means they're eating shad. So you want to throw shad imitators. You want to throw a jerkbait. Say it's wintertime. You want to throw a jerkbait or a swim bait. I like to throw a 3-inch or a 3.5-inch big hammer swim bait. I like to throw that on a 1/4 ounce or a 3/8 ounce head, depending on how deep. Usually a 1/4 or a 3/8 ounce gets me down to the right depth. And then also the A-rig. You just throw the A-rig out. I hate it, but you'll catch fish on it. I mean, if you want to catch fish, you want to catch big fish, throw the A-rig because it'll catch them. And then if you're out there in the ditches in the summertime, you want to do the swim bait or chatterbait. The swim bait, you want to reel it back. The chatterbait, you can jig it. I've caught them jigging it. I've caught them reeling it. So you can do either of those. So hopefully this helps you guys break down prune pickers, since there's so much going on there. I don't really have any big secrets on that place in prune pickers. It's been kind of a tough place for me. It's a place I haven't fished. I say I haven't really fished it a whole bunch. I just don't really have any real good secrets in there. It's not one of my favorite places. I fished a lot of pit tournaments in there. I have won a couple, got a couple seconds in them. So I do know where to catch fish in them. And if you want to catch fish, that is a great place to catch fish. Problem is it's a lot of other people's favorites. So there's always a lot of people in there. So that's usually why I haven't really fished it outside of pit tournaments, is because there's always somebody in there. And usually when you're out just going fishing, you're like, oh, there's somebody in there, I'll go somewhere else. So hopefully that helps you guys. If you guys would, if you didn't subscribe to the channel, if you guys are still watching at this point, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Like the video. Give my sponsors a try. That's Big Hammer Ringer Worms. They're killer in the pits, guys. Listen, if you were a 7-inch power worm guy, get some Ringer Worms. I'll put the link in there for you guys to get some. And also, if you like to throw jigs, throw a bit, or a 2K jigs little punk. That is deadly all year round. A 3/16 ounce or up to a 5. They make a 3/16 ounce and a 5/16 ounce. 3/16 ounce is usually my go-to, the lighter the weight, but I do go up to the 5/16 ounce depending on how deep I'm fishing. And then the wrecking ball, I like to throw it in a 5/16 ounce or a 3/8 ounce. So hopefully that helps you guys out, and thanks for tuning in.